glasses. Oh, bloody hell. Good day everybody, and hope you're well. This video is in a response really to several others that have been uploaded by other Narrowboat YouTubers, specifically about how being a single guy, in my case, can be quite lonely and depressing. And I realise this is the sort of video that I've been wanting to upload for some time, and this is the perfect excuse. And I'd like to put my side of the argument across, that being a single guy on a boat on your own is actually very good, and can be without a huge amount of effort. And I've got my list together, and I'll actually talk about lists later because I found them quite helpful in living a harmonious life as a single guy on a narrowboat. Firstly, I want to say that being alone on a narrowboat doesn't necessarily equate to feeling lonely. And one of the reasons I enjoy, for the most part, being on my own on a narrowboat is other people, and specifically toxic people. Now, life is way too short and precious to spend any of it in a toxic situation or with a toxic person. And it might be that if you're with a partner, that person is actually very nice, but when the two of you come together, the results are less than favourable. I mean, like toothpaste and gravel, custard and roast beef, they just don't go well together, but on their own they're fine. So what I try to do pretty much all the time is avoid any toxic encounters and negativity. Ooh. Incidentally, if you hear banging and clattering going on, we're in the middle of a gale. So I'm getting rocked and bashed about a bit. There's nothing I can do about it, so there you go. So as an example of what I mean by toxic people and situations, firstly, you do tend to encounter on the towpath certain people who they're either just interested in boats or they're other boaters, and they like to spend and use up large amounts of your valuable time, mainly talking about themselves. And I'm not sure if it's because of my amiable demeanour that I attract quite a few people like that, and I have literally wasted hours, quite literally, stood nodding and yeah agreeing and on and on and on, and you keep saying, oh, I must go now because, you know, I've got to solve third world debt or something like that, and they just ignore it and they just go on and on and on. And I've yet to find a good excuse to get away from that situation. And you can realise that if that happens 2-3 times a week, you've wasted 4-6 hours, something like that, when you could have been doing something else. So avoid that sort of situation. The other negative situation, a good example would be a couple of days ago. I was going along a narrow bit of canal, came to a narrow bridge on a bend, and of course I anticipated that there might be a boat coming the other way, so I gave a good blast of the old klaxon and I slowed it right down, all ready when this boat appears coming the other way round the corner. So I come to a grinding stop because I'm already going slow, so no bother. And the boat just keeps coming forward, so I start backing up, give it a load of gas, starting to back up, and the boat saw that I was moving backwards and it's still narrow, and he just rammed on the throttle and flew straight towards me. Luckily it was fender to fender, and he barged me out the way and to the side, and then he came alongside. Now, the accepted practice, I suppose, in those situations is to do your nut. But I didn't. I just glanced at him and he shouted at me, "What the do you think you're doing, mate?" But the difference was, I didn't react to all that dark, negative energy coming towards me, and I deflected it by just simply looking ahead, winding on the gas, and off I went. Because negative situations, confrontations, they can make you feel really, really bad. My next suggestion would be to keep busy and fill your time constructively. In my case, I've just finished filming season 5 of my Travels by Narrowboat, and I now have around about just under 4,000 individual clips, which I've now got to spend the next 2 months at least editing into about 7 or 8 episodes. Now, I really enjoy doing that, and yes, it gets tiresome, yes, it drags on sometimes, but I really enjoy creating, and I'm taking something that wasn't there and I'm turning it into something which is. So if you enjoy making things, writing, or anything, cooking, baking, or even doing jobs on the boat, if there's things that need doing on the boat, take time to research how to do them, and do them yourself. Then you don't have so much of the worry of cost, because the cost's a lot lower, and you don't have all the problems of finding somebody to do it for you. My next suggestion, and it's a big one, don't watch telly. TV is a monumental waste of time, and it is completely unconstructive. I have a TV on the boat, on the wall, but I've never connected the aerial. There is an aerial hidden away on the boat, and it's never been out, and I've never watched any TV programs on it. I didn't watch TV for probably about 10 years before I got on the boat, mainly because I didn't have the time, because I was too busy doing other stuff. But TV, you don't miss anything. There's nothing of any value on it whatsoever, and whilst you're sat there watching whatever's on, whether it could be some non-entity baking a cake, or some P-list celebrity trying to foxtrot very badly, or EastEnders, oh my word, EastEnders, "Oi, what's your problem, mate? What's your problem, mate? Hey, what are you doing? I'll put the kettle on, not be long till the toast's ready." And you find that watching all that stuff, you start to feel exactly how they do. So I suggest trying for just one whole day not to watch any telly, and make a note of how much time you have saved not sitting there. For a start, you're not moving. There's zero exercise, which is really bad, and you're not being influenced by this constant stream of messages, subliminal, controlling, telling you that their life is terrible and so is yours. So don't watch telly. Next one, don't read or watch the news. I take a little glance at the BBC news website probably once a week at a push, and I realise that I'm not missing anything, because everything on the news is deliberately negative. It's designed to keep you subdued. Other people, all the news stories on there, they're all negative. You'll find stories about some minority group that feels unrepresented or oppressed. You'll see stories of war and suffering, and countless stories about some man who put his hand on a woman's shoulder and now his entire family, life, career, prospects, everything is destroyed because of it. The news is bad. Next one, have a cup of tea. Cook your own food and ditch the microwave. There is nothing thought-provoking, creative, or any effort required in taking an oven-ready meal, which means it's full of rubbish and chemicals, putting it in a microwave, going deep, 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 boop, and standing there for 4 or 5 minutes, and there's your dinner. If you take the time to actually gather ingredients and prepare them and produce your own food, the sense of achievement and the taste, you know everything that's gone into it, and you're creating, you're using your mind, and it takes time to do, which is what this is all about. It's about filling your time constructively. So ditch the microwave. Now for a big one. Don't drink. And by drink I mean alcohol. Alcohol is a very powerful drug, and it's legal, like tobacco. Tobacco and alcohol are the most dangerous drugs, and they are freely available, and they're a depressant. Yes, while you're having a drink or a cigarette, you feel great, but as with any drug, there's a massive down afterwards. So don't drink alcohol, because in order to keep feeling great, you have to keep drinking, and then you become an alcoholic, and then, well, you're just on a one-way ticket to oblivion, aren't you? Next one, make a list. Write down everything that's on your mind, and I mean everything, even the things that you're not even aware of, because with negative and perceived problems, they can stay in your mind for so long and become completely a part of who you are that you don't even notice it. So take a piece of paper and a pen, or a pencil if they don't allow sharp objects in there, and write down every single thing that's on your mind. It could be jobs to do, it could be money problems, anything at all. You want to get fit or anything like that, just write down everything. At the start of the year, I was in a marina for a few months, and I used the time to do some things to the boat. I gave it an oil change, I had the injectors reconditioned, cleaned up the engine. I still have several things to do, like replace all the leisure batteries and the starter battery, but I wrote them all down on a list, and as I did every single job, I crossed them off. And there is nothing more satisfying than seeing a list of however many, 10 on a page, several pages, and as you do each one, you cross them off, and you can choose jobs to do, and you can break down each individual job into separate jobs. You know, if you need to fit a new sink, you know, you can have fit the sink to the wall, or put the pedestal, fit that to the floor. Then next job, screw the sink to the wall. Next job, fit the taps. Next job, plumb the taps, put in the waste, and so on. And that, at first imposing job, becomes not so difficult. One thing I found that really helps, and also fills your time and gives you less chance to think about all your problems, is try and learn to do everything yourself, which is basically how I've lived for the past 15 years. One reason, because it's very hard to find reliable people to do work, and secondly, they cost money, and if you don't have a huge amount of money, then the much simpler solution is to learn to do something yourself. You have the internet nowadays, you can find out how to do anything at all. Obviously make sure that you find the good advice, because there's plenty of bad advice on the internet. I've always done all my own motor mechanics, bikes and cars, and the same with the boat. Anything needs doing to the boat, I do it myself. Obviously there's a few things I can't do myself. I couldn't, for example, recondition the fuel injector pump or the fuel injectors, but anything else I try to do myself. it keeps my mind active, it keeps me moving, keeps me fit. The key thing is that if you keep doing things and keep active, your mind is concentrating on what you're doing and not all that other stuff. As some of you may know, I like the band Rush, and there's a line in a Rush song which says, "I believe in what I see, I believe in what I hear, I believe that how I'm feeling changes how the world appears." And that is so true, it's beyond belief. If you have a bright outlook and try to avoid anything negative, the world will appear a better place. If you feel bad about yourself, then you'll feel bad about others and life in general. Learn to spot when you're starting to feel a little bit down. After a while, you'll actually notice, here it comes, it's creeping in. And the best thing I find to do with that, there's two things. Firstly, if I'm feeling a bit, and the old mouth's going a bit like that, the first thing I do is I force a huge grin, and like that. It looks stupid, and I don't suggest you do it in the middle of a shopping centre or something like that, but you just really screw your face up as much as you can and hold it for 10 seconds, and you'll find, see, you'll find that it's something to do with the facial muscles of actually doing that. It releases endorphins and adrenaline, and you start to feel good. I mean, I'm sitting here and I'm feeling good. So give it a good old, as hard as you can for 10 seconds or 20 seconds. Do it a few times, and yeah, it does work, trust me. And carrying on from that, the second thing, if you feel it coming along and it just won't go away, you shout out in your mind, or if you're very much alone, there's no one around, shout out loudly, tell it to f*** off. And it works. Do it several times. Once again, not when there's people around, because they'll wonder why there's this madman shouting out, telling everything to, tell it to go away. And the last thing, retail therapy and possessions. It doesn't work, trust me. In the months leading up to when I got onto the boat and moved on full time, I took a look at everything that I'd accumulated over my previous 49 years, and I thought, what am I doing with this stuff? I had so much stuff, you wouldn't believe it. Gadgets and books and things, just stuff. So I applied a simple ground rule, which was, if there's something that I haven't used, whatever it was, in the past 3 months, I got rid of it. I either bunged it on eBay or gave it to a charity shop. And I actually found that when I moved onto the boat, I had relatively few things. I mean, obviously I had my guitars and my amp and computer and camera and various other bits and bobs, but in the main, everything I now have on the boat I use all the time, or at least once a fortnight. I mean, there's a couple of things that I know that I'm going to be using or have to use at some point that I only use once or twice a year, so obviously I need to keep that. But get rid of clutter, because you'll find that that clutter actually exists up here as well. So unclutter your physical environment and you'll actually unclutter your brain. And secondly, retail therapy. It's a quick fix. It's an elastoplast. You go out, I've done it myself, but not since I've been on a boat. You go out and you buy that thing. I mean, for sure, if you're buying it to replace something that's broken, fair enough. But the act of buying something it's a drug, it's a feel-good thing. But after, I don't know, a week, maybe 2 or a month, it wears off. And unless it's something you really need, it'll just sit there gathering dust and cluttering up the place. Plus, it's cost you money. And there you have it. In my opinion, being a guy on your own on a narrowboat doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. I actually enjoy it. I mean, I'm not completely anti-people. I will happily spend anything up to 5 minutes talking to people. My time's my own, which I fill constructively, either making the videos, cooking. I've started writing my sort of memoirs, so to speak, so look out for them on Amazon Kindle whenever they're done. The main thing is that I fill my time, and if there's a problem, I write it down and I make a point of fixing it. Yes, being a single boater moving along the canal is harder, but I wouldn't say it was hard. Things take longer. You come to a lock, yes, you have to climb up ladders, and yes, you have to try and hold onto your boat at the same time as you're opening the paddles, but you do it slowly if you're going up a lock. If you're going down a lock, it's simple, it's child's play, because you just run the boat up to the front gate, open the paddles, and down goes the boat. No problem at all. Or do what I do. If there's a particularly big lock, fearsome water rushing in, I wait 5 minutes and then another boat will come along, and invariably they end up doing it for me. Plus there's the added bonus that it's all exercise. I mean, unless I'm moored up near a town or a city that has a shop nearby, most times I go shopping, which is say twice a week, I have to walk anything from a round trip of about 3-4 miles. Once I walked a 10-mile round trip whilst carrying 4 days worth of shopping in a rucksack and a bag, and it's incredible how heavy 4 days worth of shopping is, but you're worn out at the end of it, but you feel great afterwards, and because you're tired out, you sleep well that night. And that's the final thing I would say, is keep a good sleep routine. Don't look at your phone in bed. Read a book, a nice cup of hot milk, and you'll be asleep by 8:30, 9 o'clock, and up at 7 o'clock the following morning. So that's enough of me telling you how to live your life. But if you are on a narrowboat or thinking of getting one, and you're going to be on your own, just try and plan everything out, because it is good and can be good, but it all comes from up here. So thank you very much for watching, and cheers for now.